Ciao, I'm Giulia. Welcome to today's class.
Today we talk about how to extend your background in Photoshop. This is a super powerful technique and it's got some really interesting applications because sometimes what happens is as you're shooting, you might realize that you're constrained by your background. Maybe you want to make a bigger scene, maybe you want to add some copy space to your photo, maybe your props are just bigger than you thought they would be. So you need an extra tool in your toolbox to be able to deal with situations like that. So learning this useful Photoshop technique will allow you to be more flexible creatively while you shoot, because you're technically not cheating. You're just using the tools that you have and the skills that you have to be smart about issues that you encounter while you shoot. For example, I had this beautiful marble tile that was just not big enough for my paella pan, and I wanted this composition to be like very airy around the subject. I needed to leave copy space, but obviously my background wasn't allowing me to shoot the composition that I had in my head. So no problem, I know how to fix it in post-production, and that's why I left in my original file this ugly wooden table showing underneath. That's absolutely fine, because then in Photoshop, in like literally 2 minutes, I went from this to this beautiful marble background, plenty of copy space, lots of negative space around my subject as a breathing room. Another example is for my client work. This was a shoot, my client was present, and they were like, we don't like the concrete floor, can we shoot on the wallpaper instead? And without any panic in my voice, I was like, yep, client, no problem, I got you. Because I knew there and then that I could rely on my Photoshop skills to extend that background, and my client needed a lot of copy space around the product to obviously advertise all the qualities of the product, the price point, specifications, all of that. So there and then I looked good to my client. They felt like they could trust me, and that's how I got repeat business from them. So they've been a client of mine for a few years. We shoot together every year, and they love my work and I love them. So having these techniques will give you peace of mind as you shoot, because you don't have to compromise while you shoot, because you can fix something like this easily in post. How do we do it? There are a couple of tools that I really love, and I think there are obviously, as in everything with Photoshop, there are many ways to do something, okay? In food photography, I find that these two tools are the best and the quickest, and what gives me the best results as well. So I love starting with the content-aware fill crop and then cloning in any final to give it the final touches, basically. Sure, you can use cloning to clone out the whole of the background. However, why would you do that when you can use content-aware fill crop as a starting point? Because Photoshop does a really good job with this tool. So let's jump into Photoshop and I will show you exactly what I mean. So here I have my paella image in Photoshop. Now, when I shot this image, the paella pan was quite a lot bigger than I wanted it to be. And my tile, which is my background here, was tiny compared to, I wanted to leave a lot more space around the paella to give it breathing room and also to be able to add text. As I was shooting this, I knew I had to tweak it in Photoshop, which is absolutely fine. Learning these techniques in Photoshop, it's not cheating, it's just adding tools to your tool belt so that when you're shooting, you can have the flexibility to say, you know what? There's no way I can do this during the shoot part, but that's okay because I have the ability to fix whatever I need to fix in post-production. So that's absolutely fine.
Now I'm going to show you the first tool that I really like to use because it's the fastest and it generally does a really good job at extending our backgrounds, and that is the content-aware crop tool. So to select the crop tool, you can either go here on the left-hand side to your tool panel, or you can press C on your keyboard. Make sure when you do this that you have the content-aware option checked here. What does this do? So if you want to extend your background, basically what with this checked, what you're telling Photoshop is, I want you to take pieces from the image and copy them, those pixels, onto this blank piece of the canvas. And content aware, as in you, Photoshop, need to understand which one is my background and which parts of the backgrounds I want to carry here. So basically, you're telling Photoshop, please read my mind and extend my background. And again, it does a pretty good job. Now, because we need to give Photoshop the best chances to help us though. So for example, here I included this piece, like the wooden table underneath on the top and at the bottom of my frame. And I don't want Photoshop to take the pixels from there when it's coming here to extend my background. So what I'm gonna do first is I am actually going to crop those pieces of wood out so that Photoshop knows that the only pixels it can take from my images are the beautiful marble, and it's not going to consider the ugly wood. So then you click on the check mark to commit to this crop. You can also do that by pressing enter on your keyboard. And here is the crop that we have now. So now from here, we go to the crop tool again. Again, make sure that content aware is ticked. And now is when you can basically extend the background as much as you want. You can extend it on all sides until you reach the size that you want and you like. Once you're happy with the size, again, press enter on your keyboard or up there, the check mark. And Photoshop is now considering, it's looking at your picture and it's trying to literally fill in the gaps, and ta-da! So as you can see here, it's done a pretty good job already. So up here, you can't really, if we get the zoom, you can't really tell what's going on here. It did a really, really good job at extending the background up here. Let's have a look at here. Again, really good job. I can't really see any anything. I do see some copies here, so this, you can tell that this piece is exactly like this piece, which is exactly like this piece. But I mean, when you're shooting on marble, it happens that patterns repeat, and also we can fix that with our clone tool, which is what I'm going to show you next. Because as you can see here, we still need to fix this corner here, and right here, I can see this line, and that's not okay. However, as a starting point, this is really, really good. So the content aware crop tool does a pretty good initial job at extending your background. Then you need to fine tune it. How do we fine tune this background? We can do it with the clone tool. So what you want to do is go here on your layers, add a new layer. When you work with clone tools, you always want to do it on a separate layer, so you can so it's not destructive. So, and you go clone background. So we rename the layer so we know exactly what we're doing and where we're working. Then we go here to the left hand side and we select the clone stamp tool, or we press S on our keyboard to have that tool selected. Then we make it the brush the size that we want. We press Option to tell Photoshop where to sample the pixels. And then we start basically painting those pixels on top of where we want them. So with Alt, you get that little target there and you click on there to, again, sample those pixels, and then ta-da, you get to extend that. And if you go here, make sure that on top here we get this aligned checked, and make sure that you're sampling all layers, because since you're working on an empty layer, if you only sample current layer, there's nothing on that layer. So Photoshop won't be able to get pixels from there because there's nothing. So sample all layers so that Photoshop can take the pixels from the background layer. And then we just basically keep doing that until we are happy with our results here. And then again, let's zoom in a little bit here. If we want to adjust this part where we have 3 exact copies of this piece of pattern here, again, S to select the stamp tool, the clone stamp tool. And then what you can do is sample maybe either this white part to get rid of that, to make it less obvious that it's been cloned. Or you can take another piece of pattern from a little bit more further away so that you don't immediately see that it's the same. And again, like I can see that this pattern here is fairly similar to here. So maybe what I'll do is I'll sample that part, that pattern, and go down here and just do that in order to make it more random, basically. And then we zoom out, take a look at our picture, and that looks pretty good. So these are those two methods that you can use to extend your background pretty much effortlessly. As you can see, we started with this and ended up with this. So pretty good job. I am going to show you another example here. This is a shot that I did for one of my clients, and we were on the shoot with the client present, and they were like, I don't like the floor. Can we use one of the backgrounds that you have? This is literally wallpaper, right? However, the wallpapers, as you can see, is not wide enough to accommodate for the beautiful knife collection and the knife holder. But my client insisted that they wanted this background, and I actually agree with them. It does look a lot better than the concrete floor. So right there and then they were like, is this going to be a problem? And I was like, no, don't worry. I know Photoshop magic, so we can shoot this on any background you like, and then I will be able to extend the background in Photoshop, because obviously they wanted all of this space around to advertise their product with copy, because this is a product shot. So they wanted a copy space around the product to describe, obviously, the product qualities, the price, and all of that shebang. So not only did it make me look good, that I was like, yep, no problem, we can do whatever, and I will fix it in post, but it made them more confident, and it made them trust me. So this is a repeat client that I have, and they've been calling me ever since, because I was the problem solver for them. So learning these techniques will really help you in any aspect of food photography. So here again, we repeat the process. I'm making it straight so that the cropping is a little easier. We crop down all the external noise, basically, and all of the part of the image that we don't want Photoshop to take inspiration from. And I'm not too worried about that, so I can't really crop that out in any way, because if I do, then I'm gonna crop this, and it's not happening. And again, if I do it this way, that's too much cropping there. So I'm not too worried about that. I know I can clone it out later. So here we go. This is our first crop to get rid of all the distractions. And now we go in with the content aware fill crop. So we tick that, we go back to our crop tool, and we extend the background as much as we want, really. There we go, a little bit there, a little bit there. Obviously, my client provided me with the exact dimensions that they needed. Now, for tutorial purposes, I'm not going to be too precious about it, so it's just whatever looks good. And then we commit to that crop and we let Photoshop do its magic. And wow, mamma mia, I'm actually super impressed with this. Wow, that's so much work saved for us. So as you can see, maybe there's a little something to adjust here, but Photoshop did a really good job. And obviously there's that cloning there, which I was expecting. So no, absolutely no problem. Brilliant. So we have a really good starting point that saved us a lot of time. So what we're gonna do now is we are going to create another layer, and that's the clone layer. Again, this is the same process as we did, but I wanted to show you on another image just to show you that it can be done in different ways. Again, I pressed S on my keyboard, or right here we have the clone stamp tool. I press Option on the keyboard to get that little target thing, and then I sample that area. Again, I have the all layer sample here ticked, and I am going to now go ahead and paint that little corner with my clone stamp tool. And ta-da, that corner is perfectly done. Then because I have OCD, I can see that there's this little thing here and I want to get rid of that. It's a little distraction. While I'm at it, I might as well do that. Done. And then, where else was it obvious? So as you can see, as zoomed in here, this is a little bit obvious. So I am going to fix that with, again, the clone stamp tool. So Option to get the little target sample area, and then click and drag over that area to get rid of any potential distractions or artifacts that we can see. Again, here I can see some artifacts. So again, Option, target that area and paint over with my brush with the clone stamp tool to get rid of any obvious mistakes. There's a little crumb there, pop, gone. Oh, there's a little crumb here, pop, gone. Clone stamp tool is amazing, as you can see. And crumb there, done. And here it looks pretty good. If you want to make it random, again, just like I can kind of like, no one's gonna see this but you, because you know it's there. Like if your client looks at this image, they would never ever guess that you know you did this. But to make it more random, you can always sample some pixels and just like plop, give it some cloning here and there, just to again make it as random as possible and as less obvious as possible. Plop, and there we go. And now if we look at the image, ta-da, it's brilliant. And there we have it. So again, no one will ever notice that you did that. And now my clients got all the space that they need for copy and whatever else they want. Super powerful tool.
So that's all about this topic. See you next time. Ciao!